You. You are your most important vehicle. And a lot of times people underestimate what that means. You may go someplace in an automobile or on a plane or on a train or by boat, but you are the vehicle that transports yourself from place to place. And a lot of times that, again, it gets overlooked or underappreciated. There are manufacturing plants around the world that are producing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of the same car. We see it all the time. You get a new car and then you'll see about 50 more just like yours in the next week. But there's only one of you. And again, a lot of times that gets overlooked and underappreciated. If there was a car that was as rare as each one of us is, one of one, people with large and vast sums of money would go to auctions and bid on it just to possess it because of its rarity. Now just imagine what that means to you. How rare are you? How rare should you be treating yourself? Because if people were coming to your door, knocking and begging to purchase this one-of-one vehicle, well, you would up the price because you would see its value. And that's time that we do that for ourselves. I'm not saying you have to be arrogant and sometimes delusional, as we see a lot of people, but in a lot of ways, they're not too far off. They're just a little misguided in lacking humility when it comes to realizing how special and how valuable you are. We should all know our value, but it doesn't mean you have to project it onto everybody who's not asking what the sticker price is. But here we are. A lot of vehicles, and it's almost like a living junkyard in a lot of ways. We see people who have completely trashed the exterior and interior of the vehicle that is them. They don't take care of the engine. And by that, I mean you're not getting checkup on your heart. You're not getting regular blood work done. You're not getting annual physicals, eyesight, all of those things. They're not being taken care of because as long as you're functional. And we all know the person or have seen the person who will drive a car until it just absolutely dies on them because they haven't bothered to do anything like get the oil changed or these other things. But most of us, we understand what that means. We understand if we don't take care of this car, this automobile, this mechanical vehicle that has been produced, then it won't get us to where we need to be, and therefore it takes away our conveniences. So we do that just so we're not inconvenienced. But we're going to inconvenience ourselves. And a lot of times we do when it comes time to overlook getting those eye appointments, having not been to the dentist in years. Some of these are things that if it was equated to a vehicle, had you not gotten the oil changed in a certain amount of time, you are permanently damaging that automobile. Or it would cost a lot more money to have it repaired to its running state, to a good running state, than had you just maintained it. And that's where a lot of people are. They're doing things to themselves, interior and exterior, where you are going to get to a point where the damage is almost irreversible, or it's going to cost just an infinite amount to get you back to a state where you might feel somewhat normal. And again, something as simple as not taking care of oil changes will ruin your car. Well, what does that mean when you're not getting blood work done? What does that mean when you haven't checked back when it comes time to get your blood pressure medicine, the cholesterol medications, all of those things? What does that mean? It means that we're placing more value into something by taking it every 2 to 3 months to have it updated, to get the oil changed, to get the filters changed, all those things. Why? Because we want it to run properly. But we fail to do that with ourselves. And that's a really a backwards way of thinking. I would prefer to have the convenience to be able to walk up and down the stairs, to breathe correctly, to be able to be active and live a happy lifestyle with friends and family, if not just with myself, rather than have a vehicle. How many of us have had multiple vehicles? Well, yeah, because there are others, but there's still only one of one when it comes to each one of us. There's only one of one. So you have to really make sure that you're being mindful with that. Even going to the gas pump, there are certain vehicles that run on different fuel. And there are people putting premium fuels into the tanks of these automobiles, these mechanical devices. But putting less than premium fuel into the tank that is themselves into their own vehicle. They'll put the best possible gas with the engine cleaners and all that stuff into their car to make it run smoother. And then they drive that very same smooth running car right through a drive-through to eat food into their own vehicle that would be the equivalent of sand in their gas tank. Lipemic blood, things like that, where you are starting to see oil and grease and all these things and plaque building up in our arteries and all of that stuff. It's a bad place to be. But we do it in mass. A lot of us stay routine. A lot of people stay routine. But never mind the physical. What about your computer brain? What about how we think and feel? If your car was glitching, like you turned it on and somehow it would short circuit and your radio wasn't working, but when you hit the button, then I don't know, the windshield wipers came on. Like if there was something that was really wrong, again, we would take it in for a diagnostic. And how many people are kind of haywiring themselves and not going to see somebody who can give them a diagnostic on how their emotional state might be, how their psychological health might be? There's a lot to unwrap, and humans are far more complex than a vehicle. There's no manual. There's a manual for these vehicles that are, again, mass-produced, but you are one of one. And there's no manual for that. But there's certainly help. There's certainly places that we can go to realize that, oh, okay, maybe this is how I can better service myself, better manage myself. But a lot of times we override that. And so here we are, vehicles inside of an automobile and just flying around each other. So it's one of those things to be mindful of. Little things. Your feet. Your feet are like tires. And a lot of times people are walking around, sometimes not by choice. I understand economics can play a part in it, but a lot of times people are wearing and doing things to their feet in the form of really either beat up sneakers or high heels. Both are bad for your feet, bad for your posture, bad for ankle, knee, joint health. But you do it anyways. But you wouldn't put tires like that on your car. If there were tires that were too big or too small that was going to affect how it's steered, its pull, its suspension, we wouldn't do that. But again, here we are. We allow it for ourselves, but not for that thing that's parked out in front of our house. So we have to think about these things. We have to be mindful that we are so much more valuable than something that can have a price tag put on it and sold and resold and resold and resold and ultimately just scrapped or salvaged. So when we think about that, we want to make sure also that who we allow in our vehicle. We wouldn't allow somebody who is dirty, muddy, just to jump in our car, but we allow people with those same sentiments, maybe as people, maybe not physically, but we allow dirty, muddy things to enter into our lives, and it's not their fault. We allowed them in because just like on a car, there's doors, there's locks, there's windows that you can roll up. You can see what's going on around you without actually having to get involved in it. But what do? A lot of times we hey, hop on in. Hop on in. Before you know it, you got a cigarette hole in your upholstery. There's mud all over. They probably spilled a drink. Maybe a tear, here and there. And that's what people do sometimes to other people when we let them in our lives. So we would be very discerning. I've seen people say, hey, you can't eat in the car. But we let people eat all over, all over us, in our lives, in our space, in our energy. So these are some places, mind, body, and soul, that you really have to value you as your most important vehicle. Most important vehicle. How you are treating the exterior, the interior, how you would have something put on the diagnostics machine to figure out what was going on. There's your therapy. There's a lot of ways to really put yourself in a position to improve the longevity of your life. The same way we get oil changes, new tires, spark plugs, tune-ups, all of that is meant to improve the longevity. If you have a certain dash, you get that special spray or wipe so the sun doesn't crack it and make it look worse. Do that for yourself. Do that for yourself. Go get that therapy. Go get that massage. Go get something that's going to help you feel better. Go get that exfoliation. Treat your skin better. Drink more water. All of those things. People are pouring water and fluids all the time into their radiators and wipers and stuff like that. And that's the fluid that it needs. But yet again, we'll pour fluids into ourselves, our vehicles, our true vehicles. And those are fluids that we don't need or are not good for us. Why is it that we know exactly what fluids to pour into a mechanical device, but don't know the fluids to pour into ourselves that are going to help us? We are so much more important than a car, a motorcycle, and it costs more to maintain us. If you don't believe me, go to a hospital or go to an old folks home or someplace where people have had to pay and are in heavy debt over things that may have been preventable because they were eating, smoking, drinking in a fashion that was not good for their long-term health, and it catches up. Maybe not everybody, but there's a lot of people out there it is caught up with. And even once it's caught up with you, now you're paying. I'd rather pay more now for better quality food than have to pay later for copays, prescriptions, procedures, recoveries, therapies, all that stuff. And possibly your insurance goes up. We drive so carefully so we don't have an accident or a ticket because we don't want our premiums to go up. I don't want to pay more car insurance. Why do we do that with our lives then? Our very existence. So there's mind, body, and soul. You are your most important vehicle in all planes. Don't let something that is manufactured that you may not have in 4 or 5 years because you're going to trade it in for a new one. Don't trade yourself in. Yeah, you can trade the car in, get something different, newer, whatever. But treat yourself as you are that one of one. That you are that rarest of rare. That people would be clamoring from around the world if you were a vehicle. Understand you have that kind of worth. Because you're you. And I hope this comes to everybody in a place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. And I'd like to hear what you guys' thoughts are, so please leave your ace up the sleeve, your advice, your comment, your experience. And we will see you guys soon. Peace, love, unity, solidarity, and as always, subscriptions and videos, so stick around.